as a nation. Let's move on to Macron's visit. I mean, we already have loans. We are still signing deals. We signed a deal for building a railway from the airport.
The commuter railway.
The commuter railway to the CBD. We're still signing deals and signing deals to an extent that even when President Uhuru Kenyatta tweeted, Kenyans really mocked him.
They were not kind.
And Kenyans went crazy on social media.
Yeah, I think you remind me of that tweet. I think President tweeted in French. And
yes.
As you'd expect, Kenyans, they responded in English and said, we know you're signing another loan, but you're hiding it, but we'll tell you don't sign it. But anyway, I think the president is so much in love with his Big Four agenda to an extent that the only thing he sees is how to ensure that it succeeds. For example, the local assembly, Peugeot and the rest, to him it is a boost. And I remember he talked like he's ordering the government to ensure that they buy from the local, in terms of spare parts and even the cars locally assembled, which is very good. But at what cost? The issue is at what cost? Is there cost implication that will be transferred to the taxpayer? Definitely yes. So we have to look at it vis-a-vis that. A good project that is going to take us where we want to, but at what cost? At a time when our debt is approaching 5.7 trillion, at a time when our economy is not doing so well, if the French government was to come in and give us this money in form of a grant or in form of a donation, then so good. But if it is some money that we are going to borrow and then expect to return, then I fear the next government will have to refund that money as a loan, the same way we're doing in Chinese. The lastly on that is, the visit is good, but I noted something. The president of France is a very young man. The people who are standing around him are old men with pot bellies. He has a very flat belly, and he thinks very straight. But I saw some guys shaking his hands and wondering, how is this guy so straight? This guy is working so hard. He has made his country to be what it is, and they're wondering. What our leadership must now understand is not about the age, as we are told in Kenya, that the youth are too young. It's about the idea that you have to transform your country. And I think it's a challenge to very many young politicians out there, that even at the age of 31, I was seeing a joke by, I call it a joke because Miguna was tweeting that at the time when the president, at the time one of the presidential candidates was running for presidency, Macron was 15 years old. Well, it could be true, but the thing is, if you have got the greatest idea to transform your country, today we are borrowing from France, who has a president who is 31 years old, while we have a president who is, you know, that's the message.
You know, Kenya is a funny country. We are a funny country in that we do not realize that we write budgets, we consider loans as part of our budget. We are a funny country in that we have never at any one point thought that, wait a minute, we need to reduce the bills that we pay in this country. At the same time, we are a country that wants development by hook or by crook. The truth is, any sitting president of this country will be forced to borrow. He'll be forced to borrow because there's an animal called corruption that then decides that something that should have cost 1 million should cost 100 million. Kenya has a morality problem. We have highly, highly immoral people. And as such, the problem we need to address and the thing we need to realize when we see Macron coming to visit Kenya, we need to ask ourselves the question, how big is his motorcade compared to that of a governor in Kenya? We need to ask ourselves, what is his priority? When he's sitting at the presidential palace in France, what is his priority? When there were demonstrations on the streets in his republic, did he call those ambulance drivers thugs the way our CS of transport called our airport workers thugs? Did he declare that illegal, or did he sit down with them and fix those problems? When these people come to visit us, they come as prophets to tell us, look how far you've fallen, Kenya. Rise up from your filth. But instead, what we want to do is we want to tweet them in French and impress them with our pot bellies. Kenya is a sick country. When someone who's doing the right thing comes to visit you and visits you in your kitchen and you do not know how to cook, you are best placed to learn and ask the question, how do you cook?
But Bichachi, I mean, as much as you're saying that strong, those are really strong sentiments from you. Right now, as we are speaking, the government has been saying we need to, you know, work on our resources. We don't have enough money for some of these projects. Hence, we need to borrow.
Yes. No, you see, the thing is, and that's what I'm disagreeing with. We don't need to borrow. What we need to do is we need to fix ourselves. Look, how much do we borrow per year? Okay? About 600, 700, 800 billion, right? How much do we lose to corruption? About $1 trillion. So which problem should we fix?
All right.
Should we fix corruption? Or should we fix borrowing?
Of course, we need to seal the loopholes of corruption,
exactly.
Joy.
Just something to add on before you. Just something to add on what you said. It's not about borrowing. The president told us about austerity measures sometimes back. These austerity measures have not been implemented, and he has given a very good example. The motorcade of Macron is entourage when he comes here. Is jet when he comes here. Look at that. Those are austerity measures. Today, we are still struggling with austerity measures, and we say, you know what, there's not enough money to do certain things. No, we must go into austerity measures, and even if it means that the cabinet should bicycle or use bicycle or whatever, bicycle meaning a very low-end car, then so be it, so that we save money.
All right. Joy.
Cars that were 1800cc and below. It's Honorable Tangula is one who said we're treating them like teenagers.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know which teenagers they know who drive cars that are
teenagers drive
1800cc.
But I look, I was like, did you just say that out loud? I mean, the people who are driving Uber chap-chaps. But that's beside the point. In this particular scenario, one of the things, I actually like the idea about Kenya buying locally assembled cars because that means manufacturing jobs. That means it's not some Frenchmen making the cars in France and then or wherever they are made, because most of these guys don't even make them in their own countries, and then they are sent to Kenya. That's one thing. But, you know, I've been in government before, and I remember whenever new judges would come, they would actually sit down with a Mercedes catalog and pick out the leather seat colors that they like, the color that they want, and they would send the custom requests.
The specs.
All the way to Germany. They send the specs to Germany. And the car would be made to the specifications of the particular judge, and it would be shipped to Kenya within whatever time. So when you talk about the cost of the Kenyan, this might actually save us something, because at least it will be assembled here by Kamau and Joroge and Onyango, who angalau they are benefiting in the country. So that's a directive that I sort of welcome. But I also agree with my fellow panelists that whenever we are entering deals, cost-benefit analysis. Right now, what use is it to have a shiny new train from the airport to the CBD when Kenyans are dying of hunger? I mean, think about it. We are Marie Antoinetting here. We are eating cake when people have no bread to eat. Sometimes I wish our president had been a poor man once. I really wish he had the benefit of going to bed hungry, not knowing if he'll wake up in the morning with breakfast. Because some of these things he does, I think he's a victim of his own life. He's never walked a mile in that shoe. And maybe he fails to empathize on that score. But when I look at also, when the French come here, they're not coming here because they've not seen nothing. They've come here because of something. And they're not here out of the bigness and the fullness of their hearts. They have interests. We are a market. And when we are a market, people want to come and be nice to you because they know, fine, it might cost me this when we start, but by the time I'm done with this biashara, I'll have gotten back my money with interest. So we need to understand, it's not that the French have such a huge heart for us. I mean, we saw how they treated the people that they colonized. When the French left your colony, they went back with the railways. They plucked the rails and went back with them to France. They've continued raping those countries for resources for years.
But as much as you're looking at, you know, the sort of anger that Kenyans have in terms of this rampant borrowing by the government.
we can't afford it anymore.
We cannot afford it anymore, yes. But then we also let's look at the positivity of Macron's visit.
That it's nice he came to visit. We are glad tunapenda wageni.
The first French president visiting, that's good enough.
It's
but
nice
listen,
I mean, because you're also talking about, you know, good business at the airport.
Good business, but at what cost? You see, she has said it. If Macron was coming, And they're bringing this local assembly. The cars will assemble here. The government will use the cheap spare parts to fix their vehicles. That is good because it is creating jobs and the money will circulate in the economy. And we hope also those farms will not be managed by the French. Like today we have a SGR managed by the Chinese. No, we want our locals to do that. Now, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. His visit is welcome. His visit is welcome, especially if it comes with the benefit to the people of Kenya, not to the people of France. I saw in one of your business bulletins when the French airline was, the manager was being interviewed, and they said they're going to increase the frequencies from Paris to
yeah, they said they're going to
Nairobi.
Increase their frequency by twice. Actually twice.
Those are some of the good things that are coming with it. But we have to look at it economically. If you look at the amount of money that is going to be paid back in the event that we borrow money to fix some of the issues that we have, then again there I fear. But I think generally the visit is good, red carpet, you know, motorcade. I think
no, but
all
right. We must see the other part of the visit as well, because they had this meeting at the UNEP about
and actually I was even going to ask about that.
There's
and they pledged
4.7 trillion pledged to African countries.
In terms of helping when it comes to climate
which
change.
Which is good. But you see, my issue is...
We're looking for the silver lining now. We're being really good.
And that's what I'm saying. The silver lining is this, that Kenya is an interesting country. The fact that Peugeot can sit down and make a business decision, not a charity decision, to come and invest in Kenya, that tells us that we are a growing market. If they make a business decision that it makes sense to build commuter rail between the airport and Nairobi city, that's a good idea. If you tell me about the road to, is it called Mau Summit? Those are brilliant ideas. My problem is not that the French didn't come with gifts. It's the receiver I have a problem with.
Okay. Now, Joy, you want to say